If you know the term magnum opus, or great work at all, you will most likely know it through study or reference to the arcane forms of hermetic alchemy. And while the science behind chemical transmutation of metal species has been debunked for centuries, for my purposes the concept still holds enough water to stand for a physical process for transcendence and/or enlightenment. And though I've made only vague allusions to it in the past, largely because I myself had not yet fully ironed out the many bumps in the concept, as it is not just a critical cornerstone, but the quintessential capstone of the Outlander's entire condition, I suppose it's about time I give it its proper dues. So, for those who are stumbling upon this series for the first time, the Outlanders are an ancient race of pseudo-organic, nigh omnipotent, immortal demigods who, having fought and won a titanic war against their demiurgic creators, and having achieved the closest thing physically possible to godhood in the process, now roam the length and breadth of the universe seeking a form of cosmic enlightenment they call Dromkata Aulana, whose literal translation is fire in the hole of the mind, but whose true meanings are many, and everyone is as vast, intricate, and complex as its sires. Some of the most affordable to our measly human intellects are the God of many faces, the truth of many faces, the face of many eyes, the mind of many hearts, or the house of many doors. The Outlanders are unique, and thus far they stand alone above all creation as pan-mutagenic omnimaths. Unwittingly fashioned by their bygone alien owners, as all things are unwittingly fashioned by nature, their condition underwent torturous tempering by the turbulent forces of war, a time which they have come to regard as the Great Hunt. That ordeal pushed their minds, bodies, spirits, and souls to the bleeding edge of both science and logic, defying all probability and not merely surviving, but thriving long past their ordained expiration dates, and having thence spent a micro-eternity inventing, developing, and honing every conceivable skill and discipline, they stand far above man as man stands above animal, as animal stands, swims, and flies above vegetable, which stand barely above the elemental minerals from which all things that live draw their vital nourishment. Through eons spent as the nigh unchallengeable lords of the celestial void, they have made the very rudiments of reality itself their tools, its very surface their canvas, its every substance their palette. Thus elevated, they began to ponder upon the essence and semblance of their own condition and that of the universe, and of life in general. And in that omniscient inquisitorial quest, the Outlanders have unearthed the universe's countless doors, scried the multifarious locks, and painstakingly manufactured, where they could not simply discern the various keys, codes, and combinations. Nature abides in all things. It keeps its books balanced perfectly, and its laws are incontrovertible. Natural law, as it were, must be the core of any functional philosophy. Metaphysics must build off of actual physics, or else it will devolve into unactionable fantasy. But on the other side of the coin, because nature acts without mind, it is doomed to self-destruction. But the mind and the will, or spirit, must be wielded in tandem, or else the soul will be splintered, and with no direction the body soon shall perish all the same. Thus, with the understanding that each and all of truth's 10 faces must be given their respected place in order for the head to remain properly aligned, the Outlanders set about their almighty endeavor to unmask the omniscient face of God so they might have true purpose once again. And they have it well within their powers to do this thing, since time and space themselves are their co-partners. They were there while the Earth's clock was first winding its motors. They have explored the length and breadth of creation. They have ventured to the furthest fore and aft of its massive belt. They have traveled the furthest hither and yon of space. They have seen and slain and sired entire civilizations, species, and worlds in their time. They have seen and been all that creation has to offer, and in the end, they have found it wanting. Eternity has set its horrid weight upon them as the winter inexorably lays its crystalline mass upon an ancient tree. But unlike God, the Outlanders have not bent. They have not lost hope, and they will not abandon creation to this hell of its incompetent creator's devising. But what could they do? The more you give, the more it will take. Nature abhors a vacuum even more than it abhors a paradox. Like fire, life consumes all it touches. But unlike fire, certain forms of life give just as much as they take, though the only reward they can expect from this generosity is a slower and more complete demise. Now, the Outlanders could simply upturn the tables, set their galvanic wills upon this cursed corpse of a universe, remake it all in their image. After all, to transcribe, translate, and to transform the language of creation, To add or subtract lyrics from the Song of Songs is to them what writing a note or balancing a budget are to us mere mortals. But life is born out of fire, out of strife, out of challenge. The Outlanders may not still carry a beating heart or a chest of lungs, but they still live. To rule over a blithe universe full of vacant minerals and vacuous minions is hardly a serviceable pastime for a thinking being, let alone a god. After all, a hunter must have prey, a warrior must have an opponent, a lock must have a key. And so, they've set their unconquerable minds to that magnum opus, that great work. And with all the skill and guile a pantheon of gods could muster, after countless ages of sorting, solving, puzzling, and sometimes admittedly procrastinating, at long last, they have cracked the universe's ultimate code. At long last, they have found their worthiest challenge. In the Black Wolf's own words, Deus in corpore, anima in mente, God in body, soul in mind. But to do this without loss of any of the essential code that makes the individual agents in this colossal matrix what they are, i.e. without corrupting, diluting, or digesting their souls, great care and effort must be taken to preserve the pattern data and to purge the pathological parasites that would, given the opportunity, subvert the great mind for their own profane purposes. Again, in the words of the Black Wolf himself, "We live in a world of sheep tended by lions. Every so often, the flocks realize their lives' purpose is but to feed their predatory masters and, being understandably ungrateful for their lot as walking farms of food and fleece, seek to upturn the natural order by transforming themselves and their similarly blighted brethren into wolves. Only then to discover, once the lions are dead and their thrones sit vacant, that wolves can no better digest grass than their former overlords, and with no sheep left to hunt, they inevitably turn back to the old ways, or they starve, and thus the cycle of doom perpetuates. For those who are unaware, though the Outlanders are of a singular mind and purpose, the Black Wolf is the humanoid face of their colossal cosmic enterprise. And consequently, it is his story which this rhetorical project of mine principally follows, and his attempt to transform the earth, to remake humanity, not in his own image, but in the image of a race that can prove suitable entertainment for the gods, to quicken them, to steel them, to instill in their hearts a bitter hardness against all those who would spoil the great game. In simple short, the Outlanders' aim is to perfect all soulful life to where they will perceive existence as an adventure rather than as a chore, to then extricate them from the mundane misery, from the exploitative ruin of a world molded and conquered by the savage, not to uphold the meek, but to render meekness itself obsolete. And then, once that is done, once the world knows the spoils and has purged the subversive and parasitic rot from the great wheel, the Outlanders will again become the great nemesis, the great thorn, the wild hunt. In the words of the Black Wolf, "I did not give birth to you, but I am still your maker. I did not sire you, yet I am your progenitor. I did not raise you, but I am still your teacher. I will show you the lengths of the mind, the depths of the soul, the breadth of the spirit, and the heights of the body. You will have all the strength of the lion, the cunning of the wolf, the fertility of the sheep, and the innocence of the lamb. You will be masters of all things animal, mineral, and vegetable by the time I'm done with you. You will not be wolves, but rams. You will not grow fangs, but horns which are just as sharp. Your hooves shall be as hard as stone, and you will be beyond fear. And then, when you think you have won, when you think yourself the kings of all you survey on that fateful day, I shall be your final opponent."
So then, Wolf, I am no longer a weakling sheep. Instead of fangs, I have horns which are just as sharp. My hooves are harder than the rock, and it has become my nature to fight without fear of death.
I am proud of you, Chirin. You are a fine warrior. Even I could not turn you aside.
I owe it all to you. My goal was to overcome you. The only thing I wanted was strength, so I could strike down the enemy who had killed my mother. You can't imagine the times I looked for the chance to kill you. But somehow I could never find one. I could never make myself do it.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the magnum opus, the greatest work of all time, elevating all soulful life to be the constructive half of the circle of life, only to then become the dark, destructive yin to their eternal yang. to be the engine of the wheel, the core of the drill, the fuel of the fire that stokes creativity and sterilizes any moldering infections. The Outlanders would see soulful life cured of all the weaknesses that undermine the great game. The Black Wolf and his kind will see them all freed from their needs, unconstrained by the ropes that bind them to their animalistic natures, and thus free from their cumbersome but necessary fears of the unknown, of each other, of the void, of their own natures. The mind and body are one thing, and just so are the spirit and the soul, two beings, one vessel, the God in multiple parts. The Outlanders will raise God simply so they may be his adversary. They would keep him on the straight and narrow by playing the part of his eternal nemesis. So now we have the whole puzzle laid out before us, but what of the individual pieces? We've already seen how the Barbaroi play into this grand plan, by acting as the Outlanders' vanguard, as well as their main bulwark against what they call Dromalekiri, or fire stealers, those conniving, treacherous psychic and spiritual vampires that would undermine the great work, who would harvest the potential energy of God's nascent soul for their own material profit. And as for the Dino Venators, I'll go into their pivotal place in the grand scheme of things in another video. For right now, just imagine the high-minded sensibilities of an elf married to the devil-may-care attitude of an orc. And with that, I draw yet another esoteric soliloquy to a close. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you're a fan of this series. If you want more from my fantastical vaults, links to my other social media, the Killed by Awesome Discord, and my Amazon where you can peruse my own magnum opus, by which I mean an eclectic collection of inebriated frivolity. But all that being said, until next time, as always, stay safe, stay sane, and always remember,
Life deals out few things besides pain, but from that pain you'll grow sharp, strong fangs, though they may not be the kind you can see.